things have to have priority. Which one is more important than the other? Okay, so a good leader would come and just say, what's the most important thing that we really have? Is it to clean the bathrooms or to attend to the guy who's stabbed? Which one is more important? I want to clean the bathroom because it was dirty, okay? But which one is my priority? So a good doctor, a good ER person would know exactly what needs to be done. They're going to go to the emergency room first. These other things on how to make the place look nice and is somebody wearing a uniform or not, we can talk about that later on.
Welcome to another episode of Innovation Somalia. I am your host, Abdullah. I'm coming to you from Columbus, Ohio. I'm really excited. Today's guest is a special guest. It's somebody that I have known for the most of my life, somebody that I admire, somebody that I think who is direct and forthcoming. Today's guest is Abukar Arman. Abukar, welcome to the program.
Assalamu alaikum. Thank you very much for inviting me, and someone who's related to you.
We cannot forget, he's my brother-in-law.
Mashallah.
So thank you so much for taking the time. I appreciate it. I know you're quite busy, and I appreciate. Abukar, you're somebody who knows a lot about Somalia. Somebody who write a lot about Somalia. And Somalia's existence or existing condition, where it is now, and what it was in years back, but right now where it is. What are your thoughts on where it's headed?
Bismillah. I guess you started with $1 million question, right? Off the bat.
Right off the bat.
Yeah. And well, today we're not really in a good shape in so many different ways.
Okay.
I tend to, at a time when everybody else, the ordinary Somali person or anyone else who follows the Somali politics, wants to hear some positive thing, that light at the end of the tunnel type of thing. Today, as I said, where we are today is not really anything to be proud about. Most of our people, if not all, and all those who follow the Somali issue, are looking forward to hear something positive, something that light at the end of the tunnel. And I can understand that, but I'm not the person who's really to tell people a lie if the situation requires the other way around. I'll give you an example. If the building is on fire and we need to really put out that fire and do whatever we can, or call the emergency, call the fire department, I'm not one to tell people, it's now time to bring in your new furniture into the building, or set up your office, or relax, don't pay attention to the alarm. I can't do that because that would be dishonest. So I have to be straightforward and tell people what I think. That said, I don't think we ever been, despite all of what happened, in a worse condition than the current condition, And the reason I say that is because when nations lose its sense of nationhood, or citizens lose that, then that's the end of it. Then there's no nation, there's no country, In the colonial times, everybody knew who was the problem, who was the enemy. The colonial power was the enemy. And everybody was on the same page as far as wanting to be independent. So the problem was just a single problem, and it was not difficult to fix that. Today, if you bring in 5 people into a room, or Somali, and you ask them the question as to what is the problem, you'll be lucky if 2 of them agree as to defining what that problem is. And that's generous, by the way. In most cases, we're not going to even agree to. So if that's the case, then who is the enemy? Who should be, or an enemy, I'm using this in the sense of just who is the main cause of the problem? Who should we take care of?
Right.
How do we fix it? If a problem is not defined right, definitely you're not going to fix it.
Right.
And that's where we are. So making that worse is we are in the election year. The last year and a half, 2 years of Somali politics, when the term is about to end, like a year and a half, 2 years prior to the end of the term, people start calling. And they call those that they suspect that, I can partner with this person or that person because they have political ambition or something like that. When people call me like that, and I had many opportunities of that nature, I talk to them straight and I say, listen, this is not the time that I really listen, give the benefit of the doubt to the people when they call you around those times. Because they're mostly interested in political gain, basically, okay? If a person is interested in solving the problem or contributing positively to the Somali dilemma, if you will, they will be active not only the year of the election.
Right.
So the person would have a track record. So if you have a person who's calling you that has no track record or has a track record, but the track record was like, I was this minister or that minister and I want to gain this or that, and then they're calling you in the last year of the term, you know what they want. And that's our politics. The reason I bring that up is because that's the Somali politics. The last 2 years is when everybody wakes up. So the whole discussion is around election, around who's going to be the next president, and who has a chance to replace the current guy. Okay? That's not how you get nations. That's not how you solve the Somali problem. That's why I don't waste my time on that one. I don't really, or even if I'm going to speak about it, I have nothing positive to say about it, because that's part of the problem for me, not a solution. So if we go on the current trajectory, the way we're doing things, even if we stay on that trajectory for the next 20, 30 years, and I said this a number of times in the past, and the facts support what I was saying, basically, nothing will be solved.
When you say stay this condition in the next 30 years, is that a prediction, or that is some sort of this is where it's headed and probably this is how long it's going? Because I personally believe in that if something takes long, then it will take long, maybe a double, to kind of sort of fix it. So
to solve it.
To solve it, exactly. So if Somalia took 30 years to have the first president, or maybe 25 years for whatever the case was, then it will take another. That to me is a common sense. There's no fix, but in that process, there's going to be some not so positive thing to get to, if you are headed in a positive direction. That is.
Yeah, and that's what we've been saying since Arta.
Okay.
Since Arta time, which was 2000.
Okay.
Right? So 2 decades passed. It's more than 2 decades.
Right.
It'll be soon 22. 22 years since. Since Arta time, the argument has been like this. It took us this long to get to where we are. And in order to fix it, it'll take probably that long or more. Okay. And that sounded like a valid argument at the time, because you don't know what those individuals, whether they had a vision, whether they had some kind of political plan to fix things, and so you don't know. So we rode that roller coaster for 22 years now, soon to be 22. It was 2000 when Arta took place. So I'm saying, if we stay on that trajectory, and what I mean is, because nobody came with a plan. Who had the plan? Forget about Arta is 22 years ago or 21 years ago. Look at the current ones. There are candidates right now who are in the opposition, right? And take any one of them and figure out what he or she, I don't know, there's only one she, I think. what they stand for. What political agenda do they have? What kind of vision do they have for the nation? Do you know of a single one of them? I follow the Somali politics, and if you ask me that question, the answer would be no, I don't. Okay? So, and the issue is, when I say the trajectory, I mean, people just show up and they want a position. That's not how you're going to solve a problem. That's not how you're going to establish this country as part of the international community, stable state that can function equal to all other states. No. That's why I started with my initial comment when I said we're at worse off today than we were during the colonial period. Yeah.
Is it possible that you're looking from several feet up comparing to the actual ground? And that's not just to justify of what's going on.
Right.
So if you are looking from above, like a bit of distance, if you live in a place or like you see the day-to-day things, could that change your thinking? Could that, when you see the single mom with the kids on the side doing the anjero on the middle of the market, trying to earn $1 or $2 to help her kid or to help pay rent or some sort of that, could that change your projections? Like, okay, well, even though there is some people that may not be the best interest of what the nation is headed, but I can see why certain people would behave the way they behave right now. Does that make sense?
And yes, I see what you're saying.
Okay.
And but let me just be blunt.
Uh-huh.
The reason I say what I say is because of that lady that you just described, that mother that you described. Is the reason why I don't take any position. I'm fly independent. I say what I feel like because of that mother. And what do I mean by that, and how can I prove it? Because that mother is the one that pays the taxes.
Right.
That's the one that they would extort money out of. They cannot ask the rich corporations that are operating in Somalia today. They would go after that lady that you described. They will go after the tuk-tuk driver or the bajaj driver, okay, to pay them money so they can fly and wear their nice suits and all of that. What have they done for that lady? What have they done for that mother? Zero, nothing. What have they done for the 1.1, 1.2, depending on the numbers, whoever is publishing them, who are IDPs? What have they done for them?
What's IDP?
Internally displaced persons.
Okay.
People who don't have homes, who were, due to the wars, they escaped different regions. What have they done for those people? People are suffering, and because of that reason, I don't try to be kind and complimentary to them or kind of make them, beat the drums for them. No, I have to be honest and straightforward with them because of that mother that you just described.
In a nation, hope is a very powerful thing, right?
Sure.
A nation that don't have a hope, if you steer that vision to say, okay, well, you have a hope that someday this is going to happen, that someday you'll be in a better position where you are right now. What is that hope? Pointing the obvious and pointing what's expected for everybody. Oh, okay, well, hey, there is this thing that it's easy to fix. Pointing the obvious is what I'm trying to say. That what will that do to the hope of that single mother that we were just talking about?
Firi, and hope has to be something realistic. Otherwise, daydreaming. Daydreaming is not hope. Okay, and the hope that Allah Subhanahu wa Taala will change someday the condition. Yes, I subscribe to that. But by the same token, God tells you that He's not going to change the situation, nor the condition of the people, until the people themselves change that within themselves, meaning they have to change their attitude, that they have to be kind to one another, they have to be sharing with one another, they have to be thinking above this mentality that they're operating on. They have to be saying sorry to the people that they hurt in the past, the bloodshed that took place and all of. Has any of that taken place? Have you ever heard of a Somali person who in any way, shape or form partook the last 30 years what happened, or killed somebody, or gave an order, or supported with their money or with their tongues one of those militia groups who are saying, I'm sorry, what I have done, I was wrong? Have you ever heard of that?
No, I haven't.
That's why then it's not hope then, because that the result of it we already know. That's why I keep saying, if you keep following that trajectory for the next 30 years, 40 years, nothing will change, because nothing was fixed. There's no reconciliation. There's no I'm sorry. None of that. Okay. So a person wants to show up with his suit and he wants a position, and it's easy to get that. That's the cheap way of following. That's why I have to be honest with them, because I want to speak for that person whom you described, who's unable to have a voice and to counter the argument of these people, and just who are pretending they are helping a nation when they're not.
This is going to lead to an education. Somebody that doesn't know what you're offering them, it's better than what has already been offered to them. So that single mother, if she had the opportunity to be helped, I don't think she will accept the help. What I mean by that is that includes qabil thing, that includes and a national thing, that includes many factors of that. Maybe she's not knowing on how to accept it, but that propaganda or that vision of and how do you say the people that showed up, I think. Well, I guess the question goes back to what makes them admire the people that show up the last minute. How come they not seeing what you and I are seeing?
No, I mean, Fieri, when you look at this country, I mean, forget about Somalia for a second. Does the average citizen is fully aware of how the political system works, or those people who are just telling them I'm from party A or party B, the dynamic that exists, and who funds them, who's using, like we had 4 years of a president who was just babbling stuff that a lot of people are just cheering for, right? I mean, what does the average person know about those kind of things? They just look at this individual, and they existed over the years. People who are charismatic, people who are just demagogues who can just make any claim and persuade the average person that I'm here to save it. We have one, by the way, today. I mean, we have one. We may not agree, but we do have one. And I mean,
you mean in Somalia?
Oh, in Somalia, definitely. The words and the action don't match at all. Don't match at all. The rhetoric, the thing that you hear, you can just literally, it does not stick.
Let's dig into that a little bit. What is the major thing that you see for somebody that who have written Somali extensively, that the word that's coming out of like the existing President's Month and versus what has been done?
I mean, we talked about how the problem of Somalia is deeply rooted. I mean, the violence did not just erupt one night. And there are causes to that. What is the current, and I'm not going to single out the person, he's just he's a leader, that's why I have to kind of give him, if everything is gone right, he would have gotten the credit for that, and if it's the opposite, of course he has to be accountable to that, he and whoever is supporting him in that process. So in that spirit, I'm just saying, what's the priority in Somalia? I mean, what is, there was a speech that I did about 4 years ago or so. I was invited in a conference, and what I said is, the president and his group, the current government, imagine if they were the ER team, from the doctor to everybody else who's going to assist in the process, and their job is to attend to the cases that are serious cases, okay? So if you find a person who's stabbed, that person gets more priority than the person who's having severe coughs or whatever, because this is an emergency. A person has a heart attack, you're gonna go to that person before anybody else, even if these people arrived before this one. That's how in politics it is, especially when countries are like Somali, for example. Things have to have priority, which one is more important than the other, okay? So a good leader would come and just say, what's the most important thing that we really have? Is it to clean the bathrooms or to attend to the guy who's stabbed? Which one is more important? I want to clean the bathroom because it was dirty, okay? But which one is my priority? So a good doctor, a good ER person would know exactly what needs to be done. They're going to go to the emergency one first. These other things on how to make the place look nice and is somebody wearing uniform or not, we can talk about that later on. Now, judging based on that principle that I just laid out, look at what the government is doing. What is the cash being done onto? Is it being serving people in need? No. It's serving to get the individual more power, to go to another federal state, to turn over that system and corrupt these people or that people for votes. Those kind of things are to them the priority. So when I look at that, I cannot be part of that. So I said, definitely they're not doing the right thing in that sense. Would the average person know these things? The answer is no. The average person needs people who are not interested in pleasing the government to say what needs to be said. Other is to take that information and to break it down for them so they can understand. And that's how it always works. The person who gives the birth to the idea, is not the person who would take that to the average person and say, oh, by the way, this is what you need to know. No. There is a system that it goes through ultimately until it reaches that average person, and that average person would understand what are the issues in contention and how are these problems supposed to be solved. We're talking about, when you listen to the people who are now competing for election and all of that, 99.9%, and I'm just giving that other 0.1%, just so no one would think that I'm not even giving them a chance. 99.9% of the time, what they talk about is domestic issues, okay? As though the Somali problem is only domestic, okay? As though these people who are in Halana, for example, okay, are just there for tourism or just helping the poor, and that's all they do, And meanwhile, for years and years, they're just watching these Somalis settling their scores, and they're enjoying themselves. Is that what they're there for? No. Definitely they have their own interest in there. Now, if you're not attending to yours by understanding who to deal with, it's not just the internal issues, but also external issues. And how are those external issues impacting us? How many of these politicians do you hear discussing this issue? How many of them do you hear discussing any issues other than who's going to get their seat from them or who's cheating who? The gutter politics that will just swirling all day long, all night long. That's why I say I'm not really that hopeful.
No, it's a very interesting to look through your eyes. And what I mean by that is that people that who want to change and for the better in Somalia are not being taken seriously unless you are part of the circle that are doing their share of cutting this, cutting that, doing that. But to me, that is the new norm, where it is headed right now. Do you think that we have a chance to get out of that? Do you have to, like you would have said, the ghetto politics? Do you see a chance for us to get out of that or break that cycle?
Yes, I
Okay.
do, and that's where that would have been my second half of the hope thing that you laid out.
Okay.
And I'm not really, I say this often, I remind people that, and I've written a couple of articles in the past, that losing hope, the state of hopelessness is like a dead end, okay? If you reach that stage, really it's a dangerous dead end. And no one should reach that, not the individual, not the nation, not all that. There always has to be hope, but the hope has to be laid out for people to understand what's hope and what's daydreaming, okay? The two are different. Now, the hope that we can hope for is, first we have to start doing the right thing. As I was telling you in the verse in the Quran, what Allah says, you have to take care of business first. You have to take care of your own self first. So then you can hope for something, for Allah to change it for you, or for the situation to get better for you.
And also, here is the other thing. The situation that in which Somalia is in, it's difficult to steer back, I think, right? So it's not like in a speedboat that will just like do the U-turn.
I agree.
It's a huge ship that turning. It make itself. It will take time itself to do that, right? So those course of an action, and this is very interesting to me. Those course of action should that come from on a government level, or should that come from a private sector level?
Well, each has responsibility of their own. But if I were to finish what I was saying, the hope would come. See, I lost hope in people who are my age and older.
Okay.
That's not to say that the younger ones don't make mistakes. They do, okay? But in order for that hope to be achieved, or at least that high aspiration to be achieved or something, you really need to rely on the younger generation. But the younger generation, on their own, if they don't have all the information, okay, they themselves would create more problem than if they don't have the discipline, the information, the vision, the help, the experience from some of those who know, okay, they themselves would be lost. Now, in my case, because I have to be bringing it to the personal level, because you asked me why am I not hopeful in that sense. I started some years ago, about maybe 14, 15 years ago, with a few friends, to focus on the youth, to mentor the youth, and to kind of like get them. And unfortunately, the youth that we had to focus were in the diaspora. We're not talking about youth at home. At one point, the plan was to connect the two, but you have to start somewhere. So these were English-speaking people who were in this side, were mainly in colleges or senior in high school or those kind of things to start. So we did a lot of programs that you can find, Somali diaspora youth, tons of videos that you can find on YouTube that we have been doing that for years and years. That is my investment. Those are the generations